You're listening to The Philosopher's Note on how to think like Leonardo da Vinci. More wisdom in less time.
Hi, this is Brian. Welcome to the Philosopher's Notes on How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, 7 Steps to Genius Every Day by Michael Gelb. We will begin with a quote. It was with the idea of finding the principles underlying Leonardo's limitless creativity that I began my work on the book you are now holding in your hands. The 7 principles I eventually identified were simply my attempt to write the how-to guide that Leonardo never put down on paper, to codify the principles implicit in Leonardo's work so that they can be used by others. I feel very strongly that the genius of Leonardo resides not just in what he created, but in what he can inspire us to create. Beyond all his stellar achievements, Leonardo da Vinci serves as a global archetype of human potential, giving us intimations of what we ourselves may be capable of doing. End quote. That's Michael Gelb from How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. Did you know that Leonardo da Vinci was not only the leading artist, the Mona Lisa, Last Supper, etc., of his time, he was also an incredible inventor, military engineer, musician, and scientist. Not to mention the fact that he was, apparently, also one heck of a party planner, and one of the strongest athletes as well. Yep, that's our kind of guy. In How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, Michael Gelb boils down Da Vinci's genius into 7 attributes and provides a fun and powerful framework complemented with incredible exercises that helps us develop our creativity and fully express our unique genius. This book was one of the most influential reads in my early days, and I could vividly remember reading it shortly after selling my first business, eTeams, nearly 8 years ago. I highly recommend it, and I'm excited to share some of my favorite big ideas. Plus one of the most transformative exercises I've ever done, called 100 Questions. Let's start by taking a quick look at the 7 attributes of Da Vinci, and then we'll explore a few of my favorite big ideas and how to rock them. So the first big idea, the 7 principles of Da Vinci's genius. After an introduction to Da Vinci's life, Gelb walks us through these 7 attributes of Da Vinci's genius. Number 1, curiosità. You're required to say these in Italian. I don't speak Italian, so pardon me if you do. I'm saying it terribly wrong, but we'll roll with it. It's part of Gelb's style is to have fun speaking in a foreign language and feeling into the Italian. So curiosità, an insatiably curious approach to life, in an unrelenting quest for continuous learning. Number 2, dimostrazione, a commitment to test knowledge through experience, persistence, and a willingness to learn from mistakes. Number 3, sensazione, the continual refinement of the senses, especially sight, as the means to clarify experience. Sfumato, literally going up in smoke, a willingness to embrace ambiguity, paradox, and uncertainty. Arte scientia, the development of the balance between science and art, logic and imagination, whole brain thinking. Corporalita, the cultivation of grace, ambidexterity, fitness, and poise. And number 7, cognizione, a recognition and appreciation for the connectedness of all things and phenomena, systems thinking. So there you go. If you're Italian, I apologize if I just destroyed that, but I had fun. So there you go. Number 7 principles are basically curiosity, demonstration, sensation, sfumato, going up in smoke, art and science, the body, corporalita, and connection, cognizione. So the next big idea, let's look at some of the big ideas that explore each of those, is 100 questions. Gelb says, quote, great minds ask great questions. The questions that engage our thought on a daily basis, reflect our life purpose, and influence the quality of our lives. By cultivating a Da Vinci-like open, questing frame of mind, we broaden our universe and improve our ability to travel through it. End quote. So do you have a journal? If not, it's time to get one. Da Vinci carried his everywhere. You might want to as well. Gelb has a lot of awesome exercises to fill that new journal up, and research has proven that capturing your thoughts, questions, dreams, goals, and all that jazz is actually good for you. You can see the next big idea for that. And speaking of journals, did you know that in 1994, Bill Gates bought 18 sheets of the existing 7,000 from Da Vinci's notes for $30.8 million? Not bad, huh? So the first Da Vincian principle is curiosita, and Gelb offers us an incredible exercise for that new journal of yours. It's called 100 Questions and is easily one of the most powerful exercises I've ever done. It goes like this. Give yourself 60 minutes. Find a comfortable place where you won't be distracted. Sit down and make a list of 100 questions you find interesting. Write about whatever's meaningful for you. Questions can range from, why is the sky blue? And how can I optimize my health? To what are my greatest strengths? And what am I most passionate about? And whatever else comes through. Odds are that the first few questions will flow, and then it'll be a little tougher. Push through the desire to walk away and finish them all 100, in one sitting. Then read through your list and note the themes that emerge. Consider the themes you notice without judging them. Are your questions about business, relationships, self-growth, money, spirituality, the meaning of life? Once you do that, then let's look at the top 10 questions. Let's review your list of 100 questions and choose the 10 that you find most significant. Really take your time on this. Then rank them in importance from 1 to 10. If you do that, I promise you'll have a really good sense of what's important to you in your life. Without exaggeration, this is probably the most powerful exercise I've ever done. And those 10 questions have guided my life over the last 8 years in incredibly powerful ways. So, what are you waiting for? Find some quiet time and get your questions on, will ya? And a little PS for those curious souls. Here are the top 10 questions I came up with on Saturday, June 8th, 2001. Number 1 question. How do I master myself and control my will? How do I become a warrior? At the time, I was really into Dan Millman's Way of the Peaceful Warrior. So, number 2, what is love? How do I live with agape, philos, and eros? I was also binging on Paulo Coelho, who described the 3 Greek words for love in one of his books. Philo, agape, philos, agape, and eros. Number 3, what is the optimal life? How do I live this life? Number 4, what is health? How do I achieve optimal health, energy, power? Number 5, what is important to me? Number 6, how can I inspire others to reach their potential and to love life? Number 7, who are the 10 greatest wisdom philosophers? Number 8, who are the 10 greatest examples of this wisdom in action? Number 9, what is living in the moment? How do I do that? Number 10, why is religion so widespread? Wow. Just typing those out gave me goosebumps as I feel into how much they've influenced my life. I really, really hope you do this exercise. And here's a PPS. After that exercise, Gelb continues by presenting what he calls 10 power questions and suggests you pick one of those or one of your own top 10 questions and practice the lost art of contemplation. The question I picked was, how can I get paid to do what I love to do? It's a super powerful question. The fact that I've lived this question for nearly a decade is why I'm now getting paid to read and write and grow. So, what do you love, and how can you get paid to do it? Gelb also says, by the way, the happiest people in the world ask, what if I could find some way to get paid for doing what I love? All right, the next big idea is keep a journal or notebook. Quote, Leonardo da Vinci carried a notebook with him at all times so that he could jot down ideas, impressions, and observations as they occurred. His notebooks, 7,000 pages, exist, and most scholars estimate this is about 1/2 of the amount he left to Francesco Melzi in his will, contain jokes and fables, the observations and thoughts of scholars he admired, personal financial records, letters, reflections on domestic problems, philosophical musings and prophecies, plans for inventions, and treatises on anatomy, botany, geology, flight, water, and painting. End quote. Journaling. Powerful stuff. Did you know it's scientifically proven to boost your happiness levels? Yepers. In fact, according to Marcy Shimoff in her great book, Happy for No Reason, you can see the notes on that, she says, quote, in an experiment by Dr. Robert Emmons at the University of California, Davis, people who kept a gratitude journal, a weekly record of things they felt grateful for, enjoyed better physical health, were more optimistic, exercised more regularly, and described themselves as happier than a control group who didn't keep journals, end quote. Again, that's scientifically established. Bring in two groups, randomly sort them. One group writes in their journal about random things. Another group writes in their journal about things they're grateful for. At the end of a certain period of time, one group is happier than the other. The group that wrote about things they were grateful for. So get on that, if you're feeling it, of course. And plus, how about this from Sonia Lyubomirsky in The How of Happiness? She's a leading positive psychology I reference often. She says, quote, there are many ways to practice optimism, but the one that has been empirically shown to enhance well-being is the original Best Possible Selves diary method. To try it out, sit in a quiet place and take 20 to 30 minutes to think about what you expect your life to be 1, 5, or 10 years from now. Visualize a future for yourself in which everything has turned out the way you've wanted. You have tried your best, worked hard, and achieved all your goals. Now write down what you imagine. This writing exercise, in a sense, puts your optimistic muscles into practice. Even if thinking about the brightest future for yourself doesn't come naturally at first, it may get there with time and training. Amazing things can come about as a result of writing. End quote. So have you gotten that journal yet or busted yours open? It's really big. Keep a journal or notebook if you want to think like Da Vinci and like a happy person. The next big idea is tap into your unconscious database. Quote, neuroscientists estimate that your unconscious database outweighs the conscious on an order exceeding 10 million to 1. This database is the source of your creative potential. In other words, a part of you is much smarter than you are. The wisest people regularly consult that smartest part. You can too by making space for incubation. End quote. Love that. So, how do the greatest minds do this? According to Gelb, we rarely get our best ideas when we're officially at work. If we want to enter the domain of genius, we've got to take time for solitude and relaxation. Joseph Campbell says something similar. He puts it this way. This is an absolute necessity for anybody today. You must have a room or a certain hour or so a day where you don't know what was in the newspapers this morning, you don't know who your friends are, you don't know what you owe anybody, you don't know what anybody owes you. This is a place where you can simply experience and bring forth what you are and what you might be. This is the place of creative incubation. At first, you might find that nothing happens there, but if you have a sacred place and use it, something eventually will happen. End quote. Love that. All right, the next big idea is get your mind map on. Quote, mind mapping is a whole brain method for generating and organizing ideas, originated by Tony Buzan and largely inspired by Da Vinci's approach to note-taking. You can use mind mapping for personal goal setting, daily planning, and interpersonal problem solving. It can help you at work, with your kids, or with any pursuit. The most marvelous application of mind mapping, however, is that through regular practice, it trains you to be a more balanced thinker, a la Leonardo. End quote. Mind mapping absolutely rocks. The basic idea is that our minds aren't ordered linearly, and we want to give ourselves an organic structure that mirrors our minds and nature as we capture ideas. Gelb's brilliant intro to mind mapping is worth the price of the book alone, many times over. And you can click here in the PDF for a YouTube click of how I mind map that I hope you enjoy. It's me mind mapping one of my favorite books. But again, go to the PDF. You can click on the link within that and check out the YouTube clip on it. All right, now that brings us to the next big idea. How are your affirmations? Quote, although he experienced self-doubt and questioned the value of his efforts, he never gave up. Leonardo's courage and persistence in the face of adversity are tremendously inspiring. He strengthened his will to continue his work through affirmations that he wrote in his notebook, such as, I do not depart from my furrow. Obstacles do not bend me. Every obstacle is destroyed through rigor. I shall continue. I never tire of being useful. End quote. Gotta love those affirmations, eh? I love to write this line first thing in my AM journaling. Today is going to be the greatest day of my life. It's amazing what happens when I set that intention. And I also love this Gay Hendricks inspired affirmation. Every day I expand in creativity, love, kindness, generosity, and abundance as I inspire those around me to do the same. So, what are some of your favorite affirmations? Rock them, especially if you're having a challenging time. All right, the next big idea is learning to draw. For Leonardo, drawing was much more than illustration. It was the key to understanding creation. So for aspiring Da Vincians, learning to draw is the best way to begin to learn to see and create. End quote. Drawing. This falls under the third principle, sensazione, all about developing our senses. Before reading this book, I was convinced I couldn't draw a stick figure. Seriously, wasn't pretty. But Gelb convinced me to give it a shot and inspired me to get into Betty Edwards' Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain book, which blew me away, and even take a week-long drawing course a couple years ago. Here are the amusing before and after shots of my self-portraits from that class. You got to check out the PDF, obviously, to see them, but they're pretty funny. There's a before. Well, when we walked in, the first thing we did was do a self-portrait, and then there's an after 5 days later, I believe. And then we put them up on the wall so everyone can see everyone else's before and after, and they were all stunning. So check the PDF out for that. And yes, I know that my after looks like a wanted poster, but it's still much better than the before. I also included in the PDF a couple of other drawings we did upside down. They have us draw upside down so that we don't get intimidated by the figure we're drawing. And in the process, you just draw what you see, a line here, a line there, and you learn to see the world in a new and different way. And in the process, I created two extraordinary drawings, one of a knight on a horse and another of Stravinsky, a Picasso drawing. So really cool. Check out the PDF to check that out. And drawing is really cool. Highly recommend you think about getting into it. And again, this book is a great place to start. He's got some great exercises you can use to get going. And then you can check out Betty Edwards' Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain book as well. So there you go. Drawing. New way to see the world. Increase your senses like Da Vinci. All right, the next big idea is the body of a genius. Quote, what is your image of the body type of a genius? Did you grow up, as I did, with the stereotype of the skinny, four-eyed brainiac nerd? It's amazing how many people associate high intelligence with physical ineptitude. With a few exceptions, the great geniuses of history were gifted with remarkable physical energy and aptitude, none more so than Da Vinci. End quote. Corporalita, that's the sixth principle. It's hard to believe that in addition to everything else that was amazing about Da Vinci, he was also an incredible athlete. Dig it. I like to say we're going to have a hard time living at our highest potential if we have a hard time getting out of bed. And in the book, Gelb goes off on a number of ways we can rock our grace, ambidexterity, fitness, and poise, including a discussion on the Alexander technique that led me to a workshop in Greece where I studied this movement discipline, which was super fun. For now, what's the number one thing you can do for your body? Is it exercising more consistently, eating more healthfully, getting more rest? What's the number one thing that, if you started doing today, would have the most positive impact on your life? Get on it. And that leads us to the final big idea of this note, goals and process. Quote, think of an important goal that you have accomplished. Describe the process that you followed in achieving that goal. Have you ever achieved a success without experiencing fulfillment? How do goal and process, doing and being, relate? Does the end justify the means? To live a successful and fulfilling life, must one A, be 100% committed to achieving clearly defined goals, B, recognize that the process of living every day, the daily quality of life, is of the greatest importance, or C, both A and B? End quote. I'll take C, please. Tal Ben-Shahar, the Harvard professor of positive psychology, captures the beauty of holding both in his fantastic book, Happier. See the notes, where he delineates 4 different archetypes and points the way to happiness that echoes Gelb's wisdom here. He says, quote, "The rat racer's illusion is that reaching some future destination will bring him lasting happiness. He does not recognize the significance of the journey. The hedonist illusion is that only the journey is important. The nihilist, having given up on both the destination and the journey, is disillusioned with life. The rat racer becomes a slave to the future, the hedonist a slave to the moment, the nihilist a slave to the past. Attaining lasting happiness requires that we enjoy the journey on our way toward a destination we deem valuable. Happiness is not about making it to the peak of the mountain, nor is it about climbing aimlessly around the mountain. Happiness is the experience of climbing toward the peak." End quote. God, I love that quote. Here's to embracing both the journey and the destination as we have fun learning to think like Da Vinci and express our most radiant genius. That is a quick look at this great book. Hope you enjoyed it and highly recommend it. Let's take a quick look at Michael Gelb's bio, as well as some other notes I think you'll enjoy, and then some great quotes from the sidebar. Michael J. Gelb, the author of How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, is the world's leading authority on the application of genius thinking to personal and organizational development. He is a pioneer in the fields of creative thinking, accelerated learning, and innovative leadership. He brings more than 30 years of experience as a professional speaker, seminar leader, and organizational consultant to his diverse international clientele. That is from his website, where you can learn a lot more about him. Check it out, michaelgelb.com. If you enjoyed this note, I think you'll also enjoy the notes on Happier, Happy for No Reason, The How of Happiness, The Power of Myth, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, and The Gifted Adult. I didn't mention that book in this note, but that book is awesome. The Gifted Adult. Check out the note on it, and check out the book if you like the note. So let's hit the quotes on the sidebar. We'll start with, "Genius is made, not born." These are Michael Gelb. "Now, the most important question for artists of life, am I willing to hold the creative tension between my ideals and my current reality? Aerobic with oxygen exercise strengthens your cardiovascular system, improving blood and therefore oxygen flow to your body and brain. Your brain is, on average, less than 3% of your body weight, yet it uses more than 30% of your body's oxygen. As you become aerobically fit, you double your capacity to process oxygen, which makes you smarter." That was me adding that. And then Gelb also says, "I've worked with thousands of managers at all levels. Some are analytical, serious, thorough planners. Others are intuitive, playful, spontaneous improvisers. The very best are those who balance analysis and intuition, seriousness and play, planning and improvisation, arte and ciencia. The bottom line, embrace ambiguity and trust your gut. The ability to thrive with ambiguity must become part of our everyday lives. In addition to expanding the understanding of the nature and scope of intelligence, contemporary psychological research has revealed startling truths about the extent of your potential. We can summarize the results with the phrase, 'Your brain is much better than you think.' Keeping your mind open in the face of uncertainty is the single most powerful secret of unleashing your creative potential. If the young Leonardo were alive today and attending grade school, he would probably be on medication." And we hit this one before, but the happiest people in the world ask, "What if I could find some way to get paid for doing what I love?" Those are all Michael Gelb. Now, these will all be Da Vinci. He says, "The greatest geniuses sometimes accomplish more when they work less." That's Da Vinci. "Just as iron rusts from disuse and stagnant water putrefies, or when cold turns to ice, so our intellect wastes unless it is kept in use." Da Vinci says, "I wish to work miracles." The desire to know is natural to good men. And finally, Da Vinci says, "The knowledge of all things is possible." Talk about an optimist passionately pursuing his best in life. That is a quick look at How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci, 7 Steps to Genius Every Day. Really hope you enjoyed it. and look forward to sharing more with you soon. Have an awesome day.
We hope you enjoyed this Philosopher's Note. Please go to www.philosophersnotes.com to download more.